Well, the Sharks definitely did not look like the aquatic predators they're supposed to be tonight. The Golden Knights uh, do it to them again, ladies and gentlemen, with a 4-0 shutout of the Sharks. And we will be back to break it all down after this. But first, if you want to be a part of the show, please follow us on the social media. We're on the Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook, the YouTube, the Reddit, the SoundCloud, and of course, the Discord. Oh boy. Okay, so tonight's game. Well, I mean, where do we really start? I guess we'll start in that first period. Um, I think for the first five, I'd say, maybe the first 5-10 minutes of the game. Of course, the goal coming in at 15:02. But I think in the first 5 to 10 minutes, you could definitely see that Vegas was setting the pace. And I mean, right now, this team looks like it's having the play really dictated to them. And I think Vegas really set a tone in that first period. And, I think right now, the Vegas Golden Knights are dwelling with inside the San Jose Sharks' heads at the moment. And this is not a good matchup for Team Teal, that is for sure. I don't know if anybody caught it in the third period, but there was a lot of expletives being handed out there on the ice tonight. And you can just tell, man, the Vegas Golden Knights are just punking them. So anyhow, I thought that was set up all because of that first period where Vegas really had them hemmed in their own zone, and it did not look like the Sharks could muster any kind of attack through the neutral zone, any kind of pressure, sustained pressure, besides having a dump and chase here and there. Now, I will also say that I did not see the forecheck really pressing tonight, and that could be because of the back-to-back and it just being, it being a taxing game, a difficult game yesterday. But still, we go into that, into the latter half of the first period, and Mark Stone with his 6 on the season, Stevenson and Pacioretty go ahead with the assists there. And while we're queuing this up so we can kind of break it down little by little, I mean, Mark Stone, goodness gracious, this guy is a Shark killer. And it's on a 2-on-1 here, and it's a back and forth play. And on this one, I'm thinking, boy, Burnsy, what are you doing pressing up there? I mean, you've got Burns, who decides to make the aggressive move, tries to go into the neutral zone to swat that puck away, and instead whiffs horribly. And I think this is just yet another case of the team really defeating itself with mental mistakes. I seem to see this team continuing to make the same mistakes over and over again, either being too aggressive when they need to give a little ground, or they're giving a little ground when they need to be aggressive. And I know that Burns wants to continue to move the puck up through the neutral zone, but he basically makes that play do or die at that moment. Right, it's all or nothing. He either gets the poke check and is able to move that puck further, or you've got that resulting play where Brent Burns doesn't have anybody, is trailing on that play, and is just, quite frankly, just puts Doobie out there, to hangs them out to dry there. And again, the Golden Knights are really dictating play at this point, and it wasn't really any competition for them. So it's really depressing to see. I think we're really starting to see now what this team is going to be about. And yeah, it was not pretty. It was not pretty. So going then, I think at the end of that period, I felt like they picked it up a little bit. The Sharks did. Maybe had a couple minutes in the Vegas end, but then at the end of the period, Vegas storms back and almost scores again. So to me, I felt like, the cat and the mouse, and being the mouse and being the plaything, and really not able to dictate anything. And I think we've got Al joining in. Let's see if we can pull him in here.
Heyo.
Oh, hello, Al.
Sorry, this was kind of last minute, guys.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, we've got the emergency backup coming in here as a David Ayers situation, people. Denver Doyle coming in with something kind of interesting, and I think I like this take. Denver saying Leonard needs to play every night, and I think that Al would also agree with that. I think that if you're going to have that young a player up here, you can't let him rot on that taxi squad, and that's why I'm really upset about Chemlevsky, kind of just being jettisoned to that. He's not able to play on the CUDA.
Yeah,
and yet, he's a kid that needs to develop. So,
I mean,
yeah.
Even with Leonard getting more time on the ice, he's been one of the more consistent young forwards for the team. Chemlevsky, I do like a lot, but there seems to be more time he needs on the ice to be more consistent. I see him more as a Kevin LeBanc kind of player. A lot of potential, but definitely just needs more time on the ice.
Yeah, and one guy, Al, that I'm thinking about that has maybe kind of run his course here, because I think he's now kind of showing me he's just a player, and that would be Gambrell. I think Gambrell really, to me, needs to be stepping it up. He's basically the second line center now, who is, got Balsers on his left, and he's got Leonard right now on his right. But he was also a guy that had Timo on his right, Timo on the left, and and Balsers on the right. I'm getting all of those.
One of the good things about Timo is that you can play him left or right. He is a tweener, so I love Marleau, but he is clogging up a roster spot.
Yeah, we're gonna get into Marleau too. It was bad out there tonight, but let's go into that second period. Al, I went over in the first period how just Vegas kind of started the pace of play and dictated, and going into the second period. I mean, it was just more of the same. In that first 7 minutes, the team again was flat. Vegas was able to dominate and dictate, and again, it's just more of the same ineptitude in this lineup. It was very evident tonight.
I thought the first period was kind of back and forth. The Sharks did have a couple of opportunities to get a goal in the net, but even watching the first period, you kind of could sense that if there was a 2-goal lead, Vegas would kind of blow this game wide open. And
Yeah.
I mean, like you said before, Vegas' cycle game among the best in the league. The Sharks had literally no stop against it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no real other way of kind of describing it except for that, the team was just completely dumbfounded with how to even traverse through the neutral zone. I mean, tonight, Al, I don't know how many times I saw a pass explode on the stick of the forwards tonight. Balsers having a lot of pucks slip out. I mean, like I said before, Dylan Gambrell. I think the only forward line that looked competent, and I wouldn't even say good, but competent, was the first line.
Yeah,
literally that was it. I mean, I liked Gabriel's game. I thought that he was throwing the body out there quite a bit, and Matt Nieto and Ryan Donato looked okay. Or no, Shellman. Excuse me, Shellman.
Yeah.
And I thought that those guys were working hard, but if your fourth line and your first line are the only two lines that are working hard, I'm sorry, but Vegas is going to eat you alive.
I think all year the Sharks have only had one line consistently going. That's been Couture, Kane, and I think that would Couture, Kane, and LeBanc. I think LeBanc is on that line. Whoever is on second and third, and they've often gone through goal droughts, either from injury, Timo's out, Hurdle's out. There's just a lack of depth on this team, and you're not expecting to get the production that you've gotten already from, God, blanking on his name. Whatever. But just the second and third line has just not been consistent enough, and even so, like if they're not scoring, they're turning over the puck in the neutral zone to the point where it becomes a detriment on the goalie. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And give me a second here. I'm gonna try and ping Puck Guy if we can. Let's see if we can add Puck Guy in here. And so, I think that it's not one, it's another. It really is. If it's not one line working, it's another line working. And so Puck Guy. I mean, I think we can probably hear your audio coming in.
Okay.
And we can go ahead and add you here.
Alrighty.
Land, you did kind of get quiet all of a sudden.
Yeah, you got a little quiet. You know what else got quiet, folks? The Sharks' offense.
I
mean, I'm just joining in, and Landy and Al, thank you for righting the ship. By the way, Al, I need to know where you got that shirt because that's really cool. By the way, but guys, I mean, the second shutout on the homestand, they're 1-4-1 on the homestand, and I know you guys were scrubbing through the lines a little bit there, but I mean, we kind of expected, and tell me if I'm wrong, boys. We kind of expected them to this be the make or break homestand.
Yeah.
And right now it's broken with cracks all over.
With a capital B.
You can't put
broken with a capital B.
You can't put spackle on it right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it is that bad. It really is. And I mean, I know that we have like hyperbole or whatever, but I really do think that this is a sign that this team is not good.
No, But the thing is that it's capable of being good. The talent on this squad is good enough. Yes, Eric Carlson
Oof.
has had his
I
issues.
I mean,
Yes.
I dare to challenge you on that. I mean, because clearly right now, I mean, tonight the talent looked so immediate to the eye test. I mean, the differential in talent. Now you're minus Hurdle, which is a big deal, and you're minus Timo, which is also a big deal. But even still, if they had Timo and they had Hurdle, I, man, I Vegas is just completely overwhelming them with talent.
Oh, and absolutely, Vegas has probably I think outside of Toronto probably has the most stacked roster in the NHL, and is working together as a team and having that next man up mentality. I mean, I'll even throw it to you.
Yeah.
You know, after that little sword picture Photoshop during the playoffs for Fleury, I mean, to to play 11 of the last 12, and I think he was on like a 4-game winning streak with, I think I have on my notes here like a 172 goals against in the last 4 games, and he gets another shutout tonight.
I think more or less with Fleury, the forward depth for Vegas is just they have 3 lines that could be a first line for a potential NHL team.
Oh yeah.
My issue, like when we say, you know, EK65 is not doing so well, I think we need to kind of point out that Vlasic only has 3 points this entire season, and he's getting
No, I
paid
mean,
$8 million.
Vlasic has not been good. That's another guy that has seen an epic decline. Epic decline.
Yeah, so to follow up, your puck guy's question, it's like forward depth really does control the pace of the game, and this is what hurt us against St. Louis in the Western Conference Finals. It's what kind of got us through the Western Conference Finals against St. Louis when we did have forward depth. So the huge bet that Doug Wilson made against, getting Eric Carlson and, kind of having a lesser forward depth, that's kind of been the story right now.
Right.
And, I think he's been decent. I think he's been more engaged, in particular, Eric Carlson.
This coming in just right now, Al, I hate to bring this to you, but this is from Simbin Vegas, and we used to have a really good rivalry, but now it's not as powerful as it was the first 2 years. This is Marchessault on the Sharks.
I mean, and Marchessault is going to run his mouth. What else is new? I mean, let's be honest here.
But he's not wrong.
Not wrong.
He's not wrong, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Vegas has lost to the Sharks in San Jose in regulation in the regular season. I think they're like, 6-0-2?
It's been a while.
If I'm not mistaken. I mean,
yeah.
Come on now. And this rivalry per se, and yes, we know why it's become a rivalry, but it's ever since that series, it's been one-sided. Yes, I mean, Couture had that nice overtime winner. I think it was like November of the previous season, but I mean, other than that,
I mean,
no.
and just to put a cherry on top when we're talking about scoring, and I'm just looking at it now, guys. I mean, the Sharks own the third worst differential in the NHL, and if there is one stat to me that is always a great predictability of where your team is at and where it's going is that differential. For me at least, I think that's the one that I look at as being the health indicator of your team, and this team is not healthy, and I think that the team also needs to stop kidding itself that this is a playoff team, and I think that there needs to be some movement. I think guys are too comfortable. Again, I just see a team that is comfortable. I see a team that wants to play on its own timetable. When it can, when it feels like it wants to step on the gas, it steps on the gas. But most of the time, they're content with just being pushed around.
I think if the Sharks management thought that this was a Stanley Cup caliber playoff team, they would not have brought back Bob Boughner, just because there were other candidates out there who were well more qualified. And, Bob Boughner's been decent, but like there's been times when I think he's kind of blown, having Marleau out on a 3-versus-3, having, line switches that just didn't really make sense at that time. I'm not putting anything on Marleau, of course, but like eventually the old guard is gonna have to come in negative. This is the last year of it, and Marleau's the last trail of it.
And at the same time, go ahead, Landy. Sorry.
No, I mean, I was just gonna go a little bit on Marleau because we had teased that in the opening, but Puck Guy, I mean, I love me some Patty, some Mr. Shark, and one of my favorite players to watch, and will be forever iconic in this in this uniform. But he looks like a shell of himself. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the last year of Teemu Selanne, when Teemu was just able to barely lace him up. He wasn't playing back-to-backs anymore. You could see the hands were still there, but he just couldn't skate anymore. And to me, Marleau's the only thing he's got is his skating, and everything else is just completely fallen off. I'm not seeing any power in his shot. I'm not seeing any power in his passing. And this has been a tough season for me to watch for him. I think the toughest I've had to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's been a tough one for Patty for sure. I mean, it's why, Toronto gave up a first round pick to Carolina with him to essentially get him off the books. Although I thought he did fine in Toronto, and early on last season I thought he was doing all right, but yeah, this year it's shown the age. But Patty's also been one of those guys that needs kind of a good support group around him. And
that's true.
Putting him on the third or fourth line with some kids, not exactly the best. Now, when Nolan was around, when Domfus was around, when Jumbo was definitely around, the pressure was off of him, and he's always done well when the pressure was off him. I mean, remember when he got his captaincy removed? He scored 44 goals. Yeah. So the group around him isn't exactly the best right now, and honestly it shows. I mean, yeah. and you know what, Marleau, you're going to be forever remembered here. You're eventually going to break that record, which will be, which I think will be a great celebration for him. But yeah, you can bring in some other people and such, and you guys were talking about, making some moves. Who are you going to move though?
Yeah, and
you have so many.
Yeah, I was just going to say, special shout out to Burge7F91. This is his second super chat donation, so that's $8 from Burge. Really appreciate it, Burge. And yeah, he has got he's got the question about who can you extract value for off of this roster, and I mean, I think the only one that's living up to his contract right now is Logan Couture. I think he is the only one. Maybe you could make the argument for Kane, but I think Kane has also been, on the upswing right now. But if I'm looking at Kane's contract, I don't want any part of that. There's no way I would want to touch that.
The only way you trade Vlasic is to Montreal. I believe he has a no movement clause, and I think he's made it pretty clear he wants to get back to Canada in some way, whether that's one of the Canadian teams or just after he's done playing in San Jose, move back. He's made that kind of clear.
Yeah, Al, I think kind of hopping onto that, I think What did he say? It was either he wanted to retire as a Shark, and I think that it's one of two choices. He's either playing for the Canadiens or for the Sharks, and I think that that's it.
And here's the thing, guys. I mean, trade with value. Who are you going to trade? You say Couture. He's got a 3-team list. Evander Kane has a 3-team list. Mind you, these guys have multi-year contracts. If these had like a year or so to go, like Barclay Goodrow's did, and Goodrow got a first-round pick, I mean, that's just crazy to get that out from Goodrow.
Yeah.
But I mean, Couture has 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, he still has 6 years after this. 6 years after this contract. I mean, that might be a big dangled candle to move. Evander Kane, right now, that's a tough one to grab, because who wants to bring in Evander Kane with everything that's going on outside of him? And no disrespect to Evander, because he is a good guy, and he has been gracious with all the stuff outside, doing community stuff. But who else are you going to bring in? I mean, Burnsy, you still have 4 more years after this year. We won't even touch Erik Karlsson because nobody's going to touch him.
Yeah.
And
just quickly, thank you, Ian, for the super chat donation. Really appreciate it, and of course for everyone. The super chats help, and they go back into the show. Your tax dollars at work. We've got about 60 watchers right now, so the deal, people. If you want your favorite segment tonight, I think we're gonna set the bar high tonight. I think we're gonna go for a 40 like video. So smash that button.
40?
Can we get a 40? And yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Puck Guy. Continue on where you were at there.
Oh no, you're good. Let's get those likes going, people. Let's make it happen. But the thing is that you don't have anybody that you can really move unless you're going to get something. I mean, you have to get something out of it, and you're just not going to get it.
The other issue is there is no buyer's market this time around. COVID made all salary cap just for teams. There's more of a seller's market in a way. If there's teams with cap space, you can get a first round or second round draft pick just because of how strapped teams are with cap. So, but the Sharks are not in there. They're trying to find teams, Stanley Cup teams that need that one piece, but all these pieces we were talking about are $8 million, $7 million. It's even hard to train Jones and Dubnik's contract just because of how they played this season.
And considering what they've went through, and what they've been playing, nobody's going to want to pick them up. And if you do, good luck getting anything of major value out of it.
Yeah, and just segueing kind of back into the game, because I think this is perfect, boys, with the segment here, is another guy that you thought, well, maybe you could extract some values, Devin Dubnyk. But tonight on that second goal, I'm just looking at this here, and you've got Tuch coming in and picks the glove side high, and those are one of those ones that you want to see Dubnyk try and be either cutting the shooter off a little bit more or standing up a little bit taller. But boy, I mean, one, it's rough to give up that giveaway in the neutral zone, and you've already got Tuch kind of building up speed, but you're also needing your goalie to really stand in there. I know he had already been doing a pretty good job earlier up to that point, but I did not like that goal, guys. What did you guys think on the second goal?
I'll let you go, Puck Guy.
The second goal to make it 2-0 for Tuch.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was a rough giveaway from Ferraro. He was dealing with the bouncing puck, and then just comes in and takes it in, no problem. I didn't like how Burnsy kind of just was kind of gliding a little bit there too. It almost was like that first goal from Stone kind of just deflated them. And
I think he was more or less trying to take away the center ice pass, similar to the first goal with Stone.
right.
But I would have liked to see Burns be a little more aggressive.
Yeah, and
He usually is. And we usually
Right,
get on
right.
him about the
Starfish
starfish.
aggressive.
yeah, and that's what I was saying. It was like it seemed like the reverse tonight, where they were passive when they needed to be aggressive and aggressive when they needed to be passive. It was again another mental mistake, and we don't see Ferraro having a bad game, but I think tonight was a pretty bad game from him, and I think Burns also contributed to that quite a lot. And yeah, I mean, so something that that AJ is bringing up here in the chat, and appreciate it, AJ, is if you also are giving to us or donating to us here in the super chat, you can also use at Venmo and at Teal Town USA. And the Venmo is nice because we get all of the proceeds. I think through these donations, there is a little bit of cut that goes to the Google machine. And yeah, I mean, if you really want those tax dollars to go to work, we got that stimmy coming.
Checks coming up. Come on.
Yeah.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah, exactly. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
And
so
where the Sharks are going, it's not even close to being paved.
Yeah. Well, so Tuch, go ahead, and he's got that 2-0 goal unassisted. But just to make matters worse and to make him more of a prick than he already is, he scores a second unassisted goal, and on this one, we see we see Brent Burns and Mario Ferraro just really going out there and mixing up on guys behind the net. Then it kind of pops out into the half wall area, and it then goes into the slot. There's nobody in the slot on Tuch, and he's got this backhand coming in that is put in off a deflection. So the rebound control, like Al was talking about the last time me and Al were on, has been a consistent issue between each goalie. And guys, I mean, there's a reason this team has it's got sub 900 goaltending on both goaltenders. I think Jones is like an 863 and Doobie's like an 897. I don't know what he is now, but I mean, the defense is bad. The forwards are not tracking back into the zone enough. But how many times can we go down the Martin Jones redemption tour before, it's time to cut bait with a guy?
I still think you can salvage Jones. It's just the thing is that the forward depth, like I said with Fleury, has not been there for the Sharks. And I know he's been pulled a bunch more this season, but some of that is also, Jones. Jones has been pulled a bunch more this season than normal. I think it's the 5 out of the last 15 starts this season he's been pulled. With that said, the forward depth is the main issue I see, and when it's not bringing consistent offense, time of possession, it's tailor made when Jones loses his confidence, and when the Sharks are not providing offense, it's almost what you see on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, you have Jones, you have Dubnyk, and then on this goal, it's a mixture. It's literally a mixture of Burns trying to clear it. It hits off of, I think it was Couture, and just literally lands right onto the stick of Tuch to bury it home.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh. It's one of those where we would say for years that's so Sharks.
That's the Guinea goal.
Yeah. At this point, at the end of the second, the shots on goal are already 28-17. And again, I mean, I don't know, you were not here at the beginning of it, Puck Guy, but the Sharks were getting the pace of play dictated to them, and they just kind of took it. And mind you, like I said, I did want to call out Curtis Gabriel. I thought that he was playing physical tonight. I thought he was dragging in, the players that were on his line to be physical, but it doesn't really do much when you've got no bite in the rest of the lineup.
Yeah, no. And the thing is that why is he in the lineup in the first place? Just to deal with Ryan Reeves, or just to try to throw the game right back at them? I mean, it's kind of a psychological victory for the Golden Knights that your biggest rival has to bring in a tough guy. And so far, and I'm curious to see what happens on Monday night against St. Louis, if Gabriel's in the lineup then. Because if he's not, then you're basically saying, oh, we're just bringing this guy in to play against the Golden Knights. You saw how Reeves was laughing after the fight and after that goal.
Yeah, I mean, I heard them. I heard them. In that third period, I heard the C word at least 3 or 4 times out on the ice between the two teams, and it's like, oh boy. I mean, I'm hearing this through the broadcast, and I'm like, not good, guys. Come on now, put the mute button on. But like I said, Puck Guy, complete ownage. Yeah. You too, Al. I mean, complete ownage, and right now the Vegas Golden Knights have firmly set up the throne in the Sharks' brains. They're owned, completely owned.
Yeah, I can't argue with it.
No. And I came into the season trying to be as optimistic as I could, and I think some things that we can pull out tonight was Nikki Knezhov, I think, really stood in there on the back end tonight and was really, really solid. Again, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Nieto, who's been continually consistent. If you're talking about a guy you can get some trade value for, I think he's a guy that, you could probably get a 5th or a 6th rounder for him. I'm seeing good things from Leonard. I think every game we're seeing him grow a little bit. He's a little easy to push off the puck right now, but I see some very good creativity and some really, really good speed from him. I think he needs to work on his hands, and I think he needs to work on just, again, the puck control. And Balcers was a nice surprise. I think, to me, he's kind of got a third line floor, and I think he's got a ceiling of potentially being a second liner, because I see him with some really good vision and some really good creativity. But I want to ask you, do you think, guys, that because a long time for the Sharks, they under the Tim Burke era of drafting, they always picked, or it always seemed like they picked high floor guys. They were looking for guys that could they could stay at the floor. They were a safe, kind of middle tier type pick, where they didn't kind of swing for the fences on prospects. They just kind of went for solid guys. I think that we're starting to, or not starting, but I think we're seeing that, that era of drafting kind of go through the system, and it's difficult to watch because now it just looks like a team of 4th liners to me, besides the first line.
I do want to say this, that like the Sharks for the longest time were drafting in the high 20s. They had won the division, high playoff record, first round, second round, you get the point, high 20s. So normally you're going to get prospects that aren't going to be changing the game. We got super lucky with Pavelski on the 7th round, and that never happens.
Yeah.
And heck, like Nabokov. I mean, you can reel off a list of them. But go ahead, Al.
But like in terms of like Logan Couture, I believe he was a 9th overall pick. Like the times that we've drafted high, including last year,
Or we could have.
yeah, I know.
I know.
I,
I just look at Stutzla.
I can hear already Ian and Kevin already telling me, no, like the Sharks have had a horrible history of drafting first-round draft picks low. But look, we had a tremendous luck with our regular seasons, high 20 draft picks. I do think the Barracuda system, the minor league system, could have been a lot better. But at the same time, we were using those picks, those people, those assets to trade for people down the road. Trade for people in a trade market. So
I thought we had learned our lesson, though. I really thought that we had learned our lesson 14-15, where it was like, okay, the core it looked like it was starting to age out at that point. And, we missed the playoffs that year, and they said, okay, we're going to retool. And they did, and that Stanley Cup run seemed to almost shift the philosophy again to, okay, let's push this window as far as we can. And then almost like they decided to get away from restocking the farm system, or at least they were more open to mortgaging assets, future assets in order to win now. And yet I think we're seeing that play out in the level of talent on the ice right now. Yeah. And I mean, you look at a guy like Cody Glass, Vegas' first round pick. He looks like a player. He looks like a really good player, and not only that, but a player coming into a structured system. I'll say a system that gets results, but Pete DeBoer is notoriously hard on rookies, but from tonight on his ice usage, you wouldn't see that from Glass. I mean, he's not a rookie, but I know he's a young player. It's literally tonight, guys. The story is the haves and have-nots, and going into that third period, I think you tried to be hopeful that something was going to materialize insofar as the team's pushback, but they fell even harder. Go ahead, Al.
No, what I was going to say is I think ultimately this division for the next couple of years was won and lost when Vegas went after Stone, another Ottawa player, and got him at a better deal. I think it was 8 years, $8 million, similar deal to what Burns I think got. I would have to look up Stone's contract, but Stone's contract is far more of a bargain compared to what you see how the Sharks went after Evander Kane for. So that's kind of where I look at it, is they went after a forward who had center depth and probably the best hand-eye coordination, I think, in the league. And everything that goes along with Evander Kane.
Well, the Stone deal is actually $9.5 million. For a younger guy too. I mean, he's only 28. Although the flow and the beards will tell you otherwise. But and there's some people who would say, hey, the Sharks acquired the wrong piece from Ottawa.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say now, looking at this, that this is a failed experiment, guys. I don't think we need to. I think that the book is pretty much written on this, and I think right now I'm just in the time to write it off mode, because quite frankly, this guy is not living up to. And it's not his fault. I go back to that too. I don't think it's his fault. I think if anybody were in his position where he's had some major injury issues and he could cash out like he did, everybody would take that contract. So I don't blame Erik Karlsson for taking that. But at some point, you also have to ask, is he too comfortable with what he has now? And I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes. And Denver has continually been asking me this, so we'll get this on there, and appreciate the persistence there, Denver. He's asking, how do you think Doug Wilson will explain this season? I think that he already had a built-in excuse with COVID, and I think Al was completely right with the Bob Bugner hire. I if the team was really thinking that it was more than it was, I don't think that they would hire Bob Bugner. I also wanted to say special shout out to Ian again for another super chat donation, $4.99. A beer league team that plays half baked, and Buzz has more talent than this team.
Oh, boy.
You're not wrong.
I don't know. Well, yeah. Okay.
That's the tough part, is that
Yeah.
Those longtime fans, and I've been here since day one, these are the days of, I hate to say it, it's like the Cow Palace. It's like 95, 96, where you have a bunch of players and that's it. I mean, what was the whole line from Pierre Dorian after the Carlson trade? We're a team.
Yeah.
I don't know if we even have a team.
Yeah, I don't think so. And you look at you just look at what that single move cost, and
but
you give up at least a second line center in Norris, and then you get like a bona fide number 1-2 line type winger in Stutzla. Like, oh my goodness.
But the thing is that you make that trade because you are on the verge. I mean, Landy, you and I were on the air that day, like an hour after the trade went down.
Yeah.
You make that move because you make that risk. However, what costs you, Stutzla, is the pick, is re-signing him, and then re-signing him to that ridiculous deal. Now, my thinking, and I'll put on my tinfoil hat and everything, in order for Carlson to waive his no trade, was BW flying to Ottawa, saying, "Hey, I need you to do this," and he's like, "Well, I would like to get a contract extension, and therefore need to be the highest paid defenseman in the league."
Less enthusiasm.
Sorry, I was trying to get I'm trying to perfect my Carlson impersonation there. But I'm sure that there was probably a handshake that was hidden, and nothing was everything, but you have that. You have the moves that you had to make because of that. Yes, I get COVID, COVID's a thing, and the Sharks had to deal with some other stuff, but everybody had dealt with COVID,
Yeah. Yep.
But
yeah, and I know that we're talking about the hindsight 2020, and everybody's like, hey, people are asking, or not asking, but people are saying, it is a trade that you make over and over again. But I'm just looking at it from a pure perspective now of, look how that one move affected a franchise as much as it has. How the chain of events that happened that put that move in motion, and then not only that, but the fortunes of each of those franchises with this one move. I mean, with the move and the re-sign, because I see them as linked as Eric does. I think that there was a wink wink nudge nudge on the Carlson, letting go and of his no trade clause and going to San Jose. That he was going to be re-signed to the max deal. And with that move, it cost you a second line, which I know AJ will honk that horn or beat that drum as anybody will.
And I mean, granted, he's right about that.
Oh no, I mean completely right. I mean, what was it? Something like 88 goals depart? No, not 88 goals. It's like
AJ, I know you're in the chat. Give us that stat. I know you have it somewhere.
yeah. How many goals of that second line, just went away? Again,
yeah.
It's just I'm not saying I'm not crying over the spilled milk here, but I am also wondering, when the check is going to be cashed for all of this mismanagement, so to speak.
The other trade that the Sharks didn't make was, I think it was around 2013 or 2014, when the Sharks could have possibly gotten TJ Oshie, Kevin Shattenkirk for Hurdle and Meyer when TJ Oshie was still on the Blues.
Right.
And OG at that time, or Oshie, was still like a, emerging superstar at that time. I personally do like that trade a lot.
Thank you, AJ. 58 goals.
Yeah. Of course, it's 102 points from Pavelski, but I've always been a TJ Oshie fan, and that would have been a deal I would have made in a heartbeat. Just do it like that. Of course, hindsight's 2020, but TJ Oshie is still a solid player in the league.
Yeah, and he's got a cup now
with Washington.
Sharks and Pavs was what, 2 wins away from getting it with Dallas.
Yep.
And
yep. And the thing is, guys, I mean, not only are we talking about just the raw statistics of what left, but we also have to talk about the intangibles of what left and what came in. I think you saw Pavelski. This is my pet theory about this, and I don't know if there's any merit to it, but my pet theory is that when the Erik Karlsson move was made, that kind of dug Pavelski's heel in for that third year, because I think had the Karlsson extension not been made, or at least not been made in the way that it was, I think Pavelski would have been a little bit more of the team first kind of guy. But I think after he saw what Erik Karlsson extracted from them, and Erik Karlsson was an ad and not a core foundation piece, I think, he kind of changed a little bit insofar as, okay, I got to look out for myself now, because this is what we're doing, and it's kind of every man for himself, and it's kind of it's kind of I don't know, I think it was kind of an omen, or kind of a sea change in the locker room.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was a change, but again, I think Pavs was the leader of the squad, and brought this team together. I mean, we saw that with that little snippet I would play ad nauseum, from the Stadium Series documentary.
Yeah.
You need that, and the thing is that those are the risks you take. I mean, they did it with Marlowe, did just fine because he came back with something.
I think the first big one for DW was Nabokov, right? Remember when Nabby held out? I think that was the first real big time that you had a Shark.
I mean, Nabby was under the Lombardi regime when he held out.
Okay. I thought that was DW's first.
Oh, that was. I think he was in the org still. And you have to play that game. You have to play that game. And when it came time for Doug to decide whether or not to keep Naby in 2010, that one was a tough one.
Yeah. So I going back now, or just I just want to
Anywho,
pose
yeah.
this question for you guys: is, I mean, would either I mean, if I told you this sentence, I would be willing to bleed for my team and put it out on the ice and bleed out there on the ice, and would willingly want to sacrifice for his team. Does that sound like a Pavelski quote or an Erik Karlsson quote?
Mhm.
Right? I mean that's
Yeah.
that's where I go to with this. I mean, and I think AJ puts it as diva status, but I think it's even more than that. I see a guy that is kind of afraid to really to put everything in it, because I think he's thinking he's going to come apart.
But what made the difference from going from Ottawa to San Jose? Because I mean, again, another point that we always bring up is that Karlsson at the time when we acquired him, which, believe it or not, was just 2.5 years ago, was considered most likely a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, with the pair of Norris trophies, probably one of the most remarkable offensive defensemen around. I mean, heck, we even saw that video of Kopitar and Brown trying to, like, I don't want to cover him in overtime. You want to cover him in overtime? And Karlsson's laughing. Where did all that go? I mean, yes, did Ottawa have a little bit more talent base than the current Sharks? Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was Stone, there was Hoffman, there is a bunch of other guys that were promising. But now it's like there's all this nervousness. He's thinking pass first. I mean, granted, he had a couple of good games in this week, except for maybe tonight, but it's like, come on, you guys need to have that passion. There's that we talk about the Owen Nolan, the Mike Ricci passion.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
where this team needs to come into play, and honestly needs to be focusing on, because efforts like tonight against a good solid team isn't going to cut it. The effort against Colorado, yeah, that was great, but what happened the following game? They get shut out.
And also, Colorado left, didn't really play too hard in the second period, and the Sharks did capitalize, which is probably the only time I've actually ever said that this season. But, I think Erik Karlsson has been decent. It's just who has left and who has somewhat replaced him. Pavelski is always going to be a fan favorite in San Jose. Just the way he played and being the underdog for such a long time and then being the captain, everyone's going to root for Pavelski. That said, he hasn't really Erik Karlsson hasn't really helped out his case too much.
And that is a great point, Al. Is that Karlsson could help out his own legacy here, and I think, guys, like you were saying about the Hall of Fame talk, I think he was on track to go in, but so far, if he plays out the rest of this contract as he's playing now, it might be the only time. Maybe there are some other ones. Some other people can bring up the meteoric rises of a player, but then all of a sudden just drops off a cliff, and that actually hurts his Hall of Fame chances. I think this tenure here could hurt his Hall of Fame chances. I think. Yeah,
you can make the same argument about Marleau going to Toronto and not doing anything in the playoffs.
I counter you with this, though. I think Marleau had been for so long had not been paid attention to, especially when it came to games played, durability, the goals, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so going to Toronto, I think to me is what cemented his legacy as being able to at least sniff the Hall of Fame. Because if he beats Gordie Howe's games played mark, which I think he will, how do you not have him in there?
I mean, but the first year the Sharks were without Marleau, the Sharks go to the Stanley Cup final. And, was in the second year or first year?
No, he was still on the team. He was still on the team.
Oh, no, that's right. He was still on the team. I totally forgot he was still on the team. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah. And I mean, now AJ's pulling it up. How can you give the guy the Hall when he's 2 years into an 8-year deal and can't string together more than 2 good games?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
kind of like this sense. And Landy, I know you're a Niners fan. Al, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, George Seifert was a heck of a head coach for the Niners. And, he had a great run, 2 Super Bowls, some dominant years, some dominant teams. And to me, looked like he was going to get into the Hall of Fame. Then a few years later, after he got, he resigned from the Niners, he went to Carolina and was a nightmare and had like a 1-15 record. And this guy had like the best winning percentage in NFL history and ruined it by going to Carolina. Hasn't even sniffed being mentioned for the Hall of Fame.
No.
And I kind of look at it that way. Carlson looked really great, and now all of a sudden, I mean, who misses Dylan DeMello?
Yeah. I mean, it makes Dylan DeMello look like a stud, right? I mean, guys, it's not good, and I hope that the front office is not in denial at this point. But I would have my doubts about that. And I think that the teal tinted glasses, so to speak, are firmly placed on the head of DW whilst he's getting working on that tan. Because boy, that man knows how to tan.
But especially on Free Agent Frenzy Day. But all in all, honestly, you can't even rebuild right now. You can you can get assets in, you can do little stuff here and there, but you're still going to have all those contracts to deal with. So you better have some sort of, some fancy changes you're going to make with your cap. You're going to have to make sure you cash in if you're going to attempt to tank, which I can't see them doing. I mean, they should embrace it at this point, but I mean, you can't move some of these guys. You're literally stuck, unless you get a sucker, And my concern is who's in a rougher spot, and I hate to even mention this because it's such a frustrating to say this. Who's in a rougher spot? San Jose or Buffalo?
San Jose, because of all the cap, all the salary constraints. Buffalo can get out of the Taylor Hall contract this year. They can even trade for him, but Buffalo's Buffalo. I think you can still build a quote unquote locker room community around them. It's just, there's a bigger issues with the Sharks that will last for a good 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Lacey saying Detroit, as a place, but I think Buffalo and San Jose are roughly in similar positions. Although I think, quite frankly, Buffalo has more talent than the Sharks do on some levels. I think, if you're going Jack Eichel versus Logan Couture, I mean, you take Jack Eichel every day.
No, but I mean, you even for Buffalo have, a guy that's in the second year of his contract, making what, $9 million, and Jeff Skinner, the guy who was supposedly better than Logan Couture years ago, and he's getting healthy scratch. And I know Kevin's saying that's just sour talk, but honestly, like you guys said, my point is that Buffalo can make some moves to get out of that. San Jose is kind of stuck in that sense, and that's my point.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's it's a big hole to stare down, and I would not be surprised if we see a Jones buyout. I think that one is they're going to have to eat that contract. And oh boy, you gotta hang on to Kane. I mean, I'm just thinking who's gonna what's Seattle gonna take off of this team? Who do they want? You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Because I think they can't move Burns' contract. I don't think Seattle can even take Burns' contract. Like if I was Seattle, I would take the lowest cap hit on the Sharks and move on to the next team. Just do what you got to do. And
you're not wrong.
And maybe you do what Vegas did for the Sharks and just say, hey, we'll offer you a second-round draft pick and to take Burns or Vlasic or someone just to get them off the books. I don't really think you can buy out Jones. I think they're just going to ride him all the way through his contract and just say la vie. But it really does depend on who's coming up through the Barracuda system, and I don't think there is a good goaltender in the system quite yet.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Well, we've eclipsed the hour mark. We've got 67 people watching, which is amazing. We only got the 26 likes, so everybody,
26?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. The
26?
Yeah. We're trying to go for 40, but I guess people don't want that favorite gimmick of ours. So, I mean, gentlemen,
I was gonna even drop out so you guys can have Kevin recap that wonderful Barracuda game.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make it 30 and go around the league.
But while we're doing that, guys, let's can we have a little bit of Jersey jargon before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, between me and Eric, we can spend
I honestly, now that we've seen him on the ice, what did you think? And it's interesting the Sharks put out this poll. They did it on their little game day website, and they put it on Twitter as to which jersey do you like the most. And they had 4 options: Stadium Series, Heritage, Reverse Retro, and Stealth. And let's see if I can pull this up. But I mean, they got a lot of response to it, and they say 49% the Heritage, 25% for the Stealth.
Yeah.
What did you guys think?
I think go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Blaney. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that they need to keep the old logo in the stable rotation. I think going forward, the appetite is just there insofar as merchandising and sales and stuff, and I think that if the Sharks are going to go through a downturn, they really need to pull all the stops with the merchandising and with the special jerseys and things like that, because I mean that's really, we're looking forward to that now. I mean that's where we're at. We're looking forward to the little niceties.
We can take whatever we can get. I mean, come on. Marketing was the biggest thing that the Sharks had going for them when they entered the league. So I don't know.
Yeah, Al, what do you think?
Honestly, I'm really a fan of the New Jersey that was on tonight. I think it's kind of it's not A-tier jersey. It's definitely a 3rd-tier jersey. Definitely an alternate. I think it's just all that gray. I don't think matches with anything on the jersey. But go with the classic 25th anniversary Heritage jersey. Just make that your 3rd jersey. Get it over with. People will come and get it. Of course, they probably won't. They'll probably keep that still limited every so and so.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of that gray, guys, I mean, I just think of that Nike jersey, you know, that Nike years, and if you're gonna have that gray, you've gotta either bite the bullet and just, you know, go straight up. Hey, we're gonna bring this out of retirement, or you just don't use that color at all, because but besides being in the heritage jersey, right? But I think that they've definitely gotten away from using the gray in their primary palette, and I miss the gray, so it's nice to see it. But when I see that gray, I don't think about that jersey that Puck Guy's got on right now.
Let me ask you this:
All right.
if there,
Oh, go ahead.
Before, what jersey style would you like to see reversed? If it's not this version, which version would it be? Would you want like the heritage jersey in black?
I want the heritage whites.
God.
Well, but again, I'm in the white home minority. You know what I mean? Like,
Phrasing.
You know, like yeah,
yes.
phrasing, right? Everybody knows I'm Italian, so that automatically disqualifies me from saying I'm white. But no, what I mean though is I'm of the old school where you wear whites at home. You know what I mean? It's like the Giants creams. It's just you think of the light color at home, and those whites to me are just gorgeous. I love the white jersey in the original logo format. So that's me.
Yep.
All right, boys. So let's go ahead. We got 30 likes, so I guess we can do a quick run around. But we're not going to play you the graphic, of course.
Yeah.
And everybody, we're just going to go really quickly through these scores. I think we're going to try and wrap this up. So the Rangers beat the Devils 6-3 tonight. Both teams are kind of middling right now. 10-9-3 for the Rangers and 7-11-2 for the Devils. The Islanders, man, Barry Trotz's run teams are just always really, really good. 14-6-4. They beat up on the Sabres tonight 5-2. I think that's kind of why we also had some Sabres talk a little bit, because they are really not going well. Penguins beat the Flyers tonight 4-3. The Penguins treading water, so it'll be interesting to see where they end up on the season. Panthers beat the Predators. There's another team that's fallen from grace, ladies and gentlemen. The Predators are 10-14-0. Panthers are 15-4-4. They're looking pretty good, and they beat up on Predators 6-2. The Canucks beat the Maple Leafs tonight 4-2. And again, another team that is underperforming, and another GM that's potentially in trouble out there in Vancouver. The Coyotes beat the Minnesota Wild 5-2. The Canadiens beat the Jets 7-1. The Ducks beat the Avalanche 5-4 in overtime, and that was a comeback game. Stars beat the Blue Jackets 5-0. Kings beat the Blues 4-3 in overtime. Again, another comeback game. And in the Battle of Alberta, the Oilers take the Flames 3-2 in regulation. And another team that's needing some restructuring, that is for sure, over there in Flames country. So, gentlemen, can I get your final thoughts on tonight's play of the evening, and where the people can find you, and what your plans are kind of going forward? Go ahead, Puckeye.
You can find me at Puckeye14 on the Twitter and the Instagram. Been here for a long time, not going anywhere anytime soon. You know, when they say Teal together, you stick with this team no matter what. It's gonna be painful, folks, but hang in there. Hang in there. It's hopefully something will come up soon. I mean, my goodness, but just hang in there. And as for me, I'm going to bed after this, so there you go. Back to you, Landy.
Well, appreciate that. I'm loving that we can use that tonight. Al, go ahead and let us know where people can find you, what you're up to these days, and anything you want to pimp.
You can find me on Twitter, Al Martinet. I'm always talking hockey, always talking sports. Similar to Puck Guy, rough season. Just coming with no expectations. There will be light at the end of the tunnel soon, but it's definitely not going to be this season. That's about all I can really say. I mean, this sounds dark, but dark is before the dawn, right?
Well, you're absolutely right about that one. Right about that one, Al. If you missed us, though, check us out across pretty much all of the social media platforms and podcasting platforms that you know of. So that would be Apple Podcasts, the Google podcasting service, of course, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart. And you can always catch those really, really good news and editorial pieces out at tealtownusa.com. And for everybody, this has been some good therapy tonight. And we'll catch you after the next game on St. Louis against St. Louis on Monday. So thanks, everybody, and have a great night. So keep it real, keep it teal. Keep it real, Teal. Have a good one.
That's my line.